Welcome back to Fairytale Anime Review. This is part 7D. This one I'm talking about the final arc of Season 7, which takes up episodes 234 to 265. I am also going to talk about the last two episodes ever to air for the series, which are kind of basically part of Season 8, but they had nothing to do with Fairytale Zero. This is just basically just the 1 year jump episodes. And I'll get to my thoughts on those soon, but I want to talk about the Tartaros Arc. This arc was really exciting, and it started with a bang. With, well, how should I put this? It started off with the Grand Magic headquarters, the Grand Magic Council headquarters being blown up by one of the demons of Tartarus, named Jackal, who, by the way, does come back later on to fight Natsu. And so, yeah, because Tartarus basically is starting up now. They kind of hinted at this in the previous arc, basically in the Sun Village arc. But before I continue, there's something I forgot to mention from the two arcs back of what happened in the ice episode. You know, the episode where Natsu, Lucy, and Happy get some ice from this particular cave. Yeah, there's a couple things I forgot to mention. One, the fact that Happy, because he was getting so cold, he decided to hop in Lucy's chest. No, seriously, that's what he did. And another thing that, while they were all sleeping in that frozen cave, she decided to do some, well, sleepwalking. She decided to strip herself butt naked in a frozen cave and hop in ice cold water, thinking it's a nice hot bathtub. Yeah, it's really bizarre, to say the least. Yeah, it's a recurring trope when it comes to gag when it comes to Lucy, is that she frequently loves taking baths. Yep. So, in this arc, simply put, because the Grand Magic Council was blown up basically, and also because of they also have it where the Thunder Legion, the Thunder League, the Thunder Legion basically is working at one of the former Grand Council members' restaurant. They are attacked by Tempest, one of the 9 gates of demon gates of Tartarus, and he takes them pretty much all out. Heck, Loxus puts up a good fight, but even he basically doesn't. He does kind of beat him in a way, but when the guy blows up, he lets out this poisonous mist, which basically almost consumes the whole city. Loxus basically consumes a good chunk of it before he himself passes out, and pretty much the Thunder Legion, all 4 of them, are all down along with the former council member. Well, Freed basically risks his life to get back to the guild, and because, well, they have to find out where these Grand Council members are, they do find all but one are pretty much found dead by various teams. Like one team which basically finds one who's a woman. Basically, it's Ganjo, Levy, and her two, I would say her two male cheerleader friends. And of course, Natsu, Lucy, Happy, Wendy, and Carla go find the one who actually is alive, basically. And here's something interesting, though. They actually find these former council members because Loki basically decided to seduce the information out of a librarian. And it turns out the librarian is actually this former council member's granddaughter. Yeah. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, okay. And when Loki shows up in here, I'm like, when did he pop up in here? He just comes completely out of nowhere. And he's still wearing his fancy suit that he normally wears when he's in his regular form, because when he was first seen, he just wears like a jacket and just t-shirt and jeans. That's what he was normally wearing. And then when he became a regular celestial spirit again, he put on a suit. He's actually had 2 actual suits. The other, of course, is Capricorn. When it comes to celestial spirits, they're not really seen. Not many of them are seen in this arc. Just Leo, Virgo, and Aquarius, which I'll get to those soon. So that Natsu takes on the Jackal. Yeah, that's seriously what the guy's name is, Jackal. And he does defeat him, but the guy blows himself up. He is reborn late because, well, Tartarus basically has a underground lab which pretty much brings back all the members who any of them die. Yeah. So, and then they find out that The reason why they're after the former council members is because they have info on a particular weapon. Because Tartaros wants to get hands a specific weapon called Face, and this weapon called Face has the ability to wipe out all the magic on the continent. Excuse me. To me, from my perspective, is and the council made this thing. I'm like, why the heck would the council even wanted to build this thing? Of course, I think that's one that actually is more. I'll get to that soon. But they do find more council members. At one point, they have Elfman and Lasana basically go investigate one particular council member who actually is dead, but they find one of the demons of Tartarus, the one of the two female members of the group, and she basically sort of hypnotizes Elfman to in order to save his sister. He hypnotizes her. She hypnotizes him to take a explosive lacrima, basically it's a crystal ball, to the Fairy Tale Guild Hall to blow it up, making it the second time the Guild Hall has been destroyed in the series. The first time was by Phantom Lord. This time it's by, well, Tartarus. Though they do it through, let's say a suicide bomber in a way. Yeah, and the demon Tartarus name is Sela. There's also one named Kagura, I think her name is. Yeah, she basically looks very, and she's also known as the goddess of the slave planet. And she walks around, looks like she's half naked most of the time. Yeah, and she's one of the more human-looking of demons. Tempest basically looks like a creature. Their leader is known as the Underworld King, who actually, even though he's the boss of them, he's the leader of all the gates, but he's not the master of Tartarus. It's basically a weapon that was mentioned in, it was a name that was referenced in the previous arc called END. Apparently END is a powerful demon created by Zareth, the main villain of the franchise. And END, the whole time he's seen, he's basically a book. No, seriously, that's basically what he is, a book. Of course, let's see if I forget anything else before I move on to the next part. Let's see. Oh yeah, one group. I forgot one group. It was made up of Gray and Julia. Yep. They. Oh, and Panther Lily went with Ganjil. So. Yeah, they like every gal's back at the guild hall, with the exception of, well, they also have it where Urza and Mira Jade decide to go investigate the former chairman, basically because he has info on Face, basically how to activate it. But it turns out, basically, that the chairman's actually in league with Tartarus. Yep. So, for the first and by far only time in the series, Mira Jade and Urza fight side by side. Yeah, they did do some brawling when they came back after the 7-year jump. Yeah, with Twilight Org. Yeah, which, by the way, they do appear in this arc for like one brief episode, and that's really it. So they defeat a bunch of soldiers, which basically storm the former chairman's house. And I'm thinking, even they agree, like, why not send one of the demons? Why send just meaningless soldiers? The purpose is to wear them down because, well, they were having tea with him, and he drugged their tea. Yep. Though my thinking is, why didn't it affect him? Either that or he's immune to the drug. It's never explained. So they all get back there, and of course, because Natsu was worried about Urza, because, well, they were basically friends and family, he basically goes to the former chairman's house, sniffs it out, and basically finds where Tartarus' headquarters is, which basically, their guild hall is on top of a sentient living cube. No, seriously, that's basically what it is. And then basically Natsu gets captured after he, well, let's just say he was fighting Gray's father. Yeah. The guy calls him, so basically where he says, like, he sniffs him, is like, you smell very familiar, you smell like Gray, and he's about to say Full Buster, and he just freezes him on the spot. And then he gets thrown into jail. and he gets the scar taken away and his coat as well for some reason. Yeah, and they take away his scarf, his coat, and his boots. Now in the manga, Lasana basically in this particular scene in the manga, when she was shown in this jail cell, she's butt naked. No, seriously, she's butt naked. And kind of the same thing with Urza, though with Lasana, they basically kept their clothes on, probably because it would be kind of odd to see a 17-year-old girl in the nude. I don't know, but apparently Urza is basically okay. Well, for Urza, even though in the manga she's butt naked in her cell as well, in the anime she's wearing like a underdress thing. And most of the time when she's in the cell, she's being tortured. She's being whipped like crazy. No, seriously, she's being whipped like crazy. All because this demon wants to get her hands on Jalal. And Jalal, meanwhile, is basically having problems of his own. When Darren Bolt, basically, and the guy who was head of the custody unit, he gets killed in the explosion. So Darren goes to speak to Cobra of the Ration 6. And he wants info exactly what they're after. And he says, okay, I'll give you the info if you free the Ration 6. Yeah, and he frees all 6 original members. Which makes it the first time since the Ration 6 arc, the first one, the one from Season 5 was basically filler. Well, all 6 original members all come back. And they, basically, as soon as they're out and they're walking about, the first thing they do is they take out Brain. And here's something interesting though. He has all the marks on his face for basically the Biolink magic. And then later on he becomes Mr. Zero, which I'm like, okay, how is this possible? Because this is never explained. He just automatically becomes Mr. Zero when he's basically nearly killed. And of course, all but Richard, I don't really remember his Ration 6 name, he grew a mustache during the 7-year jump. And let's see, they pretty much did like four of the basically at this point, basically 5 members of Ration 6. 4 of the 5 of them take on Jalal and lose big time. Yeah, they lose. They barely survive. So basically, and of course Midnight tries to use his magic on Jalal. Though Jalal briefly blinds himself, and then he grabs Midnight by the shirt and says, like, I want you to redeem yourself by joining Crime Sorcier. It's this independent guild that he mentioned he formed during the 7-year jump, and they had previously got 7 guilds, and they do eventually join him. Well, by the end of the arc, become full-time members. They're kind of against that first. Richard himself has no problem being part of the group because he himself wants to redeem himself. Midnight is kind of conflicted. The only two that didn't really want to do anything with Crime Sorcier was Racer and Cobra, whose real name is Eric. And it turns out Midnight's real name is Macbeth. Though for some reason the anime when you look at Midnight, the way he looks at this point, he kind of looks like a girl. I have no idea why. Oh yeah, and all the members' real name. Well, apparently, let's see. The Racer's real name is Sawyer. No, seriously, that's really his real name. And it turns out that these 5 members of Ration 6, and there's reference in their arc as well, that they were previously prisoners of the Tower of Heaven. Yeah. And also they also run into a former member of Grimoire Heart who basically want to get back at Tartaros for taking on the other guilds. Apparently the other 2 that were with them basically were just illusions. It's never mentioned exactly what happened to them. They just, oh yeah, this one member of Grimoire Heart, there was actually 3 members left, and it's never mentioned exactly what happened to them. It's implied Zareth might have killed the entire Grimoire Heart with the exception of a Rusty Road. But yeah, he does, and when he's seen, he looks pretty much the same as he was seen during the S-Class trials, except that he part of his glasses that he wears, one lens is missing, and part of his frame is gone as well. And after Jalal beats him with the help of Ration 6, he just offers him a membership in Crime Sorcier if he wants to join up. which is never stated if he actually does by the end of the arc. And so they eventually, because after they find, because Happy and of course Happy makes back to Guildhall, he tells everybody where Tartaros' headquarters is. So basically, Levy basically uses some math to figure out exactly where they are, and it turns out they're actually right above the Guildhall, because this cube is basically mobile, and of course the Guildhall blows up, and it's implied the entire guild has been killed, but then they later show that Panther Lily, Carla, and Happy are bringing up 3 decks of magic cards. And what's in these magic cards? The entire guild. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, okay, now Mara Jane, when she was captured, she was taken to an underground lab, and they tried to alter her, but because she's part demon anyways, yeah, she basically is immune to it. Even Sakila basically is questioning, like, why in the world are you immune, basically. And of course they give her backstory about how she and her siblings joined the guild, which was nice. I appreciated them doing that. And of course they all get there, and because Happy, Carl, and Panther Lily want to get to the top, what the guild hall is, they decided to activate the cube's gravity and just have them on the bottom of the cube. And so whenever they look up, well, not at the bottom of the cube, they're basically above Magnolia. Yeah. So, and then once they get there, Tartaros' soldiers show up, and they just all beat the living crap out of them. And of course, Natsu and Lasana basically prick out their cells. Natsu apparently takes a while for him to get back a scarf, of course, where he finds it later. Basically, he puts on a coat, and somehow Urza gets free. And Urza basically, in payback for her torture, basically piles her right through the cube directly to make a hole for some people to get through to get to the Tartaros Guild Hall. Which, for some reason, a lot of the time when it's shown, it looks like the building is still standing, and yet when they get inside, it's basically ruined. It's kind of awkward how the anime does it. So, everybody's fighting all of them, and at one point, they activate the Q special ability, where apparently it becomes sort of like a monster, and the only way to return to normal, basically, at one point, Lucy is on the run because she's the only one who actually survives it. Somehow, it's never explained how she survives, but somehow she does basically survive everything absorbed. And so the leader, the Underworld King, basically makes he puts a bounty on her head, like whoever kills her basically can whatever like non-demon gate kills her becomes automatically a new demon gate, and any demon gate kills her basically gets some kind of special reward. So they have Jackal. Some shark guy go after her. I think. Oh yeah, and the crazy scientist lady who's actually shown. Yeah, this crazy science woman laughs like. I'm like, seriously, this character is so annoying. And yet, also later on, there's also multiple copies of her after she's apparently killed by Jackal. Yeah, and she wears this suit and she wears a tie in that says 1/16. Okay, I get the fact she's a scientist, but why does she have to have a tie that says that? It's never really explained. And basically, Lucy summons 3 spirits at once. Summons Leo, Virgo, though Virgo for some reason is in a bikini. Go with it. And then she summons Aquarius, despite the fact that the water is not exactly normal. And then basically, then she has no choice. Like, okay, she's running low on power, and she has to do something. So Aquarius suggests summoning the Celestial Spirit King himself. But since there's no key, she has to smash one of the keys, and Aquarius suggesting that she smash hers. Despite the fact that of all the 10 spirits that she has, she's known her the longest. And there's like flashbacks of basically Lucy, well, doing crazy things with her when she was a child, like something when she's in a bathtub, or when she's near a fish tank. Yeah, it's a minor gag when it comes to her, where half the time when she's summoned, she's always got a bad attitude every time she's summoned. Anyways, so she breaks the key. Of course, she's crying what she's doing. And then the celestial spirit king comes in, smashes the cube, turns the Underwood King to stone, gives Lucy power of a dress, gives Aquarius power to her form of looks like a swimsuit look with her, and she does eventually take out Jackal. But then the shark guy shows up, tries to take her out. Then Ganjo shows up out of nowhere. Of course, before the Spirit King leaves, he does also free all the guild members from their imprisonment. And then basically, while like 4 people show up, basically to try to take out Lucy, 4 people show up to help her, and it's Ganjo, Julia, Gray, and Natsu. Yep, they all show up to help her. Of course, Natsu takes on Tempest. Gray takes on Silver, who turns out to be his actual father. Ganjo takes on the shark guy. But, and Julia takes on Keys, who's basically a necromancer. Yep. So, yeah, and of course, well, also we also get a chance to see Minerva in this arc, and she becomes a demon, though she later gets freed from the influence. Excuse me. Though she briefly fights Urza, and then the Underworld King shows up after he's been freed from stone. And then all of a sudden, Rogue and Sting show up. Yeah, I finally remember his name. And their Exceed show up as well to help Minerva. And it says, yeah, and basically they confirm what Urza told her. Yeah, the guild misses her. They don't miss her jerk of a father, though. Yeah, the guy. Yeah, it's shown basically during the course of, well, Minerva fighting Urza, that apparently her father abused her when she was a child. A lot. Yeah, because her father had the most dumbest philosophy. Basically, the way he talks, it kind of reminds me of Apocalypse. Yeah, it's kind of like survival of the fittest. Yeah, his survival for this attitude is nothing really new from what I've seen in fiction. So, basically, when I hear him talk, I hear basically Apocalypse come. Despite the fact it's a different voice act, though, but his dialogue is very similar to that of something that Apocalypse would say from Marvel Comics. Yeah. And, oh yeah, he does show up later. Yeah, I'll get to that soon. So, yeah, and of course the cube crashes along with it. So, everyone takes on their own fights. Julia eventually takes out Keys, which also takes out Silver. Of course, Minerva, Urza, and Rogue and Sting's Exceed decide to go look for the command center. And they run into Panther Lily and Happy. Though Happy has a mushroom in his head. Turns out it was actually one of the demons that Natsu previously fought there as well. Who basically briefly took possession of Ares and Taurus. And in order to sort of weaken his power, basically Lucy closed their gates. And I thought this was so hilarious. It's like, okay, when he had possession of those two, he wouldn't punch Ares, but he has no problem punching Taurus. He's like, I have no problem punching him. Yeah. Because Taurus is a pervert. That's the way he always is. The only time he basically is not acting like his normal self was during the Grand Magic Games arc when he was summoned to because normally he's like it makes those cow sounds and he wants to get smooched. He wants to get a kiss from Lucy. Yeah, it's so really bizarre. Yeah. So, and then she tries to close Natsu's gate. Basically, she bluffs away thinking Natsu's a celestial spirit as well, and of course, he's defeated, thinking, oh, yeah. And of course, also during while all this is going on, prior to the whole absorption thing, Mira J breaks out of her cell and destroys the entire lab. Yeah, she destroys the entire thing. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I forgot? Let's see. Oh yeah, the crazy scientist lady. Yeah, Jackal kills her by blowing her head off. Yeah, that's how he kills her, with his explosive hands. He just because basically she was telling him to blow up one of her breasts. Yeah, I'm like, okay. Yeah, and this woman is insane. And she clearly does not have perspective, basically, on how handsome, like what she thinks, what her tastes are in guys. It's really weird. It's never said if she's a demon or not, but they aren't. She's has like 20 clones of herself for no reason. It's never explained why she has clones. It's never explained exactly who this character is. There's not even a name given. Heck, she briefly even fights Lasana at one point. It's so really dumb. She's probably by far the most annoying character in this whole arc. And when I saw her get killed, I was like, okay, fine. You got rid of one. And then, of course, I agree with the guys who are fighting her clones. It's like, yeah, this is annoying. Yep. Anyways, after Keys is taken out, Julia basically goes into shock, basically trauma, because, well, Gray basically had already defeated Silver, because Silver tricked him, like, oh yeah, he's actually Deliora, the demon who killed him previously. Yeah, it turns out the reason why he's alive because Keys basically brought him back through his, because he's Necromancer. And instead of being a puppet, he just basically just wanted the gates. Oh yeah, and his armor says absolute 0. Yeah. No, of course, Gray does defeat him, but heck, at one point when he somehow I had no idea how. It's never explained how in the war he got telepathy, but somehow he got telepathy. So he telepathically communicates with Julia, and he's like, "Oh, are you Gray's girlfriend?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a little more complicated than that." Yeah, because they never officially dated throughout this whole thing. Yeah, it's so hilarious. Yeah. And then he's the one who tells Julia, like, kill Keys and basically end my suffering. Yep. And of course, just before he dies, he gives Gray his Ice Demon Slayer powers. Yep. So he said, he ends the scene like, I'm going demon hunting. And of course, he doesn't talk to Julia until like the final episode of the arc. Yeah. And Julia basically, after she defeats Keys, yeah, she's crying and she says, where's Gray? I really want Gray. I mean, not like the way she usually does, but because she wants to apologize to him. And she's like this for the rest of the arc, basically sobbing and all that. Of course, that also, yeah, and then of course, while she's like sobbing and basically in shock, of basically take out the guy who basically, brought back Gray's father. And it's explained also basically during a flashback that Silver didn't know that Gray was even alive at all until he saw him at the Grand Magic Games. Though it showed during the last day, during the whole Battle Royale thing. Yeah. So, he said at that point that Gray would be the one to kill him, because he wanted to die. And, of course, Julia basically helped him with that. And because she had been heavily injured by Keys, she basically couldn't fight anymore. So, Natsu and Ganjo decided to take on the other two demons that were there. Natsu couldn't beat Tempest at all. It took a character I'll talk about in a minute basically to beat him. And then at one point, the shark guy, I don't really know his name, he decides to flood the entire area. And Ganjo basically is able to survive for a good period of time because, well, he turns his body to iron. Because during the Grand Magic Games, he gets an Iron Dragon mode. And Natsu basically has like a Lightning Dragon mode. Yeah, it's like his own special mode that he goes in. Also, when they have it where Rogue and Sting fight the Underwood King for some reason, they don't go to the Dragon Force forms the whole entire time they're seen throughout this whole arc. Which I'm like, did they forget that they actually can do that? Yeah, I think they forgot. Because either one, the animators chose not to do it, or two, maybe the creator told them not to do it because it just seems a little odd though, because the last time they were seen, when they were fighting, they were seriously using these forms, and then all of a sudden they're seeing this arc, and they are not using those forms at all. Which I'm kind of like, couldn't you guys go with those forms? Nope. The whole time they couldn't do it. And, of course, Everybody's like knocked out unconscious at one point when everyone's underwater, except Gonjo. He's about to lose air, and of course Levy basically who finds him somehow, and then she gives him basically gives him some air by kissing him. Yeah, because it's hinted at the whole time that Levy has a crush on Gonjo, the whole series, and she's about to, and Shark Eye's about to attack her. He says, "Don't you touch her." Yeah. Implying that he might have a thing for her as well. It's never really stated. And then eventually the guy is defeated, while she also gives air to everybody else. And once he's defeated, the water just goes away like magic. And then they take on Tempest. He takes on Tempest for a little while. And Tempest basically is about to kill him because he's weakened from his attack with the Shark Demon. And then all of a sudden Loxus shows up completely out of nowhere, despite the fact that, yeah, the guy is basically on the verge of death. The guy is basically suffered from poisoning. So he battles him, punches him in the gut, and takes him on for a good while. He punches him in the gut, gets some blood in his coat. And eventually the guy is defeated with one blow. And because there's water all over the place, he just has it with all lightning all over the place and just shocks him. And then he blows up and basically has these special particles that are poisonous. So, and then all of a sudden Gray shows back up, freezes everything, and he basically goes and goes to find the leader of goes to find the Underworld King. And throughout all this fighting, Agaloria shows up. Yep, the dragon from the S-Class Trials arc. Yep, first time he's been seen since that, and wow, it's like this like is throwing everything. First iteration on 6, now this apocalyptic dragon, which was revealed during the Grand Magic Games arc that he was previously human. Yep. And he's destroying everything, and then everybody's like suffering like major like heartbeats. It's like everybody's like in pain. And then all of a sudden a light comes out of Natsu, and it's Igneo. Yep, first time in 14 years he's been seen. And he takes on Agaloria. Also, while this is going on, it's revealed that there's actually more than one face. Even after the one particular face that Wendy and Carla took out, there's actually thousands more. So they try to get back to the guild so they can use Warren's telepathy to communicate, but basically it can't go beyond 5 meters. So, and also, throughout the whole of this, basically, Hades, who was previously Second Master, he tells Makara, basically, unleash the light, and he knows what he's talking about. It's a special lacrima, which inside this crystal is the body of the First Master. And I don't know why no one points this out. Not even Makara points this out. Why in the world is this woman butt naked? No, seriously, the woman is butt naked. I get the fact her ghost is clothed. Fine. But why in the world is her body butt naked? Couldn't they at least, when they put in that crystal, put at least some clothes on her? Why does she have to be butt naked? Yeah, the chorus also mentioned by Mavis herself that it's not the time to use that particular weapon. That can be used later. So, hinting stuff down the line. And, of course, Agaloria kills each eagle. But the faces are about to all go off. And throughout some of these episodes, yeah, because some of the episodes take place around the same time of each other. So all this major fighting is going on. Of course, Natsu and Gray take on the Underworld King. It takes them a while, but they do beat him. Even after it looks like they apparently were killed. And before they go fight him, Ichigo basically hires Natsu because, well, he's part of the guild. So he hires him to steal the Underworld King's book. And he tells him not to open it and do not destroy it. He's like, okay, I'm in a guild now. I don't take this stuff for free. And Ichigo's like, okay, I'll think about it. It's like, okay, here's your reward. If you get that book, I'll answer all your questions that you have for me. He's like, okay, I can accept that. Yeah, this is, of course, after he had been told to go after it anyways, not to interfere. And, of course, he helps Ichigo basically, and they let's see, and all the faces about to go off, and everyone's look like they're about to lose magic, and then all of a sudden, and this is a shock, the other Dragon Slayer's dragons, the ones who raised them, the other four, Grandini, Megakana, and the Light and Dark Dragons, show up completely out of nowhere, and they smash all the face weapons across the entire continent. Yeah. So the first one seeing is Grandina, then Magicana, then the other two. And everyone's like, where the heck have you been? Where the heck have you guys been? It's something, though, of the four dragons that once show up, that basically Grandina is the one who shows up first. And Grandina is a woman. Yeah, even though it's mentioned that Grandina is a sky dragon, yeah, it's a woman. And of course, Megakana, basically, at the end of it, he does get a chance to sort of briefly meet Levy, the girl who has the thing for his adopted son. Yeah. Though he doesn't say anything about it. And apparently Ganjo doesn't like him very much, even though he disappeared 14 years prior. Yeah. Of course, Ichigo basically, he does get killed by Aglo even after he severs his arm. So, yeah. So, and before all this happens, Zeref shows up. Of course, this is actually one of two times. He actually showed up previously when Natsu was battling a bunch of the soldiers. He says that Tartarus is actually his library. Okay. I get the fact that these demons are basically based on books, but how in the world is this library? What are the other books? Yeah, that point is never explained at all. And then he disappears, not seen again until he shows up to basically kill the Underworld King because he failed. Excuse me. And then he takes E&D with him, and then he's never seen again. So what was the whole point of him showing up in here? So overall, in the entire series, Zeref showed up a handful of times throughout the Tartaros Arc. After the Tartaros Arc, he disappears. He's never seen again until this very arc. Those times he's seen in flashback, but as for him in person, it's like, I don't know, maybe the animators and the manga writer basically forgot he existed. But yeah, Ichigo is killed. All demons are basically slaughtered. Kaga basically is killed by Minerva, even after Urza basically battled her for a while. At one point, she knocks up all Urza's senses, and apparently she just fights him. She fights him based on instinct. That's what it looks like to me. They say it's a sixth sense. And even though it looks like everybody's about to lose, of course all the dragons show up anyways. But let's see, anything else? Let me think. Of course, Natsu is basically traumatized by the death of his adopted father, and he decides to go on a journey, go on a training mission for a whole year, and doesn't tell anybody about it except Lucy via letter. And then the next day afterwards, the whole guild disbands. Yep. Yeah, after all that. Oh yeah, and it's also revealed that Darrenbow is actually an actual member of Fairy Tail. And apparently he erased his memory so he can infiltrate the council. Yeah, this comes completely out of nowhere. Heck, even he's like, okay, how in the world am I a member of Fairy Tail? Yeah. I kind of thought this though that when you watch from the anime, this comes, it's like a last minute thing. And then like the day after Natsu goes on a journey, the guild disbands. And of course, also before all this happens, like they show Juliet basically finding Gray, and she apologizes for sort of ending his father's life, but he forgives her. And then they never see the anime ever again. Though it's basically revealed in the manga during the 1 year jump that they went to go live together in a house. As for the rest of the characters, Ganjo and Panther Lily joined the custody division. I don't know what Levy did. Urza and Gray joined Crime Sorcier. Yeah, that's revealed during the 1 year jump in the manga. That's what they did. I don't know whatever else did. Basically, and of course, as for Makarov himself, he disappears, not seen again until the last arc of the manga, which is really, really long. Let's see, how long, like how many episodes is this particular uh was Tartarus based upon? Let's see. Now, it's also, I looked at a little info about this particular arc. Yeah, this was the second time that the creator wanted to end the manga here, but because it's still popular, they figured they'll just continue going on. Uh-huh. Yep. That's what they kind of figured. They'll just keep the arc going. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of figured, though, okay, let's just keep the manga going, despite the whole thing of, well, I mean, this arc kind of felt like they're wrapping pretty much a lot of stuff. That's what it seemed. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It seemed like they were just wrapping up this whole entire thing by throwing a lot of fan service, bringing back some villains. That's what kind of feel like. I feel like this was the end. Okay. Killer Arc is adapted from chapters in the manga, chapters 356 to 417. It's a lot of chapters. It looks like about 70 chapters at least. And I think it ends with 417, which is about halfway through book 49 of the actual of the volume books. Yeah. So overall, it was a really good season, nonetheless. And Tartarus was a good way to end the season. But then I want to talk about also a couple more episodes that aired during the season 8 when they did the whole season 0, Fairy Tail Zero, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but I did get a chance to watch the last 2 episodes, which are part of this anyways. And these 2 are adapted from chapters 418 and 419. Just 2 quick episodes of, well, return to form. And it kind of feels as though when you finish watching these 2 episodes, it's kind of like you need more story. But no more story because they stopped the anime right here. My personal theory is probably once again they actually cut up with the manga again and they want to get the thing a break. Though it's been over a year since these 2 episodes have aired, and I have heard that the anime is coming back next year to adapt their remaining chapters in the manga, which in actuality there is about I think it's like 128 chapters to adapt. Yeah, 128. Well, actually no, not 120, more like 126 because they did adapt the first 2 chapters of the Avatar arc. Yeah, basically, in the course, Natsu just kind of tell, and of course, Lucy apparently during the 1 year jump basically started working as a model for Sora's Weekly, and then she actually worked there as an actual reporter, though it took a little while for her to get an article published by them. And she moved to the capital city, where her rent is actually 10,000 more than her rent in Magnolia. Yeah, it's referenced that her rent in Magnolia was actually 70,000 a month. 70,000 jewels a month, and in the capital city, it's 80,000 jewels a month. Yeah, and then toward the end of the episode, Natsu shows up after his 1 year journey, where apparently he's no longer wearing his jacket. He's still wearing his pants that he always wears. Also, during the Tartarus arc, Gray finds his scarf that apparently missing. Asks for where he just finds it. It's just lying on the ground. I'm not sure exactly where the heck it was. It's never explained exactly what area of the Tartarus Guild Hall was found in. Just that it was taken away from him. So, yeah, and because the fact that he had sort of, well, and when he first shows up, basically seen briefly as a guy walk around town, and then he shows up in the Magic Grand Magic Games after everybody's won. He challenges the winner. And he pretty much burns like a lot of people's clothes off, and he only burns down the stadium while doing it. And also he burns Lucy's top, which apparently, okay, I guess they throw in one that particular recurring gag of basically Lucy's top always being torn up a lot. Excuse me. And then pretty much the next episode is just basically explaining like what he's been doing. Training, doing various jobs. I mean, the first place he went is Tartaros Island to see the first Master's Grave, which was nice of him to do that. And, of course, apparently he's gone really powerful in the past year. Where apparently he's, well, like I said, powerful enough to burn down an entire stadium made of stone. Yeah. Though apparently he is never charged, he just basically just let go, despite what he did. And then the episode, like after all the talking, basically, Lucy tells Natsu that the guild disbanded the day after he left. He's very sad about it, and then basically he finds out about basically what Lucy's been up to, basically trying to track down where all the guild members went. Basically any like rumors or any confirmed sightings of them. And he's like, okay, and the episode kind of ends basically where he kind of basically laid his mark on the palace, where he says basically Fairy to kind of come back, and basically he runs Lucy out of he basically drags Lucy out of her apartment with all of his stuff. It's never stated if he managed to pack her stuff as well, because her stuff is still in that apartment as well. And they just run to like next town, and that's where the anime ends. Yep. Of course, so images of stuff throughout the whole entire series. I will get to Fairy Tail Zero soon. I just want to get some other stuff done first, like some comic books, and of course I'm working on watch the first film, the OVAs, and I'm gonna read the spin-off manga as well. That's really all that's left. Of course, also Fairy Tail Zero as well. Aside from that, that's really it. I personally can't wait when the series comes back next year so I can finish adapting the manga, because when you finish watching this last episode that officially aired, which I watched that particular episode, basically it's episode 26, it was actually 277, it kind of feels like there should be more there, but it just abruptly stops. So basically it kind of ends basically of how it began. Yep. So that's really it for this episode. I know it's kind of long, but a lot to talk about for 32 episodes. Okay, so my next part I'm going to talk about, I'm going to work on soon the OVAs in the first film. The second film, I'm going to wait till the dub comes out. It's going to come out in a couple weeks, but I'll get my thoughts on that when the time comes. Alright, so then, until I see you all in my next video, which is like about the OVAs in the first film, I will see you there. Bye.